Hello, YouTube Pipers. I'm not sure if the camera's over there or up there. I just can't tell. Anyway, Cobb Tuesday. I don't know that I've ever participated in Cobb Tuesday, but here I am. This is the cob I'm using. It's my Emerald Cobb, which always ticks me off whenever I realize that I did not get my emerald stem, and I fuss about it every time. If you've ever watched any of the others where I pull out this particular pipe. But I figured, can't keep it lit either. I rushed out and bought another 10 of this, and maybe I should have waited until I had a second and third bowl before I did that. I liked it so much when I first smoked it. And I had people tell me, no, don't smoke that in that good pipe. Because if you remember, I smoked it in this one that I had gotten in the mail the day of the Codger challenge, being a dumb person. They said it'll ghost that pipe. Well, that got me kind of concerned, so the next day I filled it with my concoction, Clyde's Neff's Mess Mix Blend. And I didn't taste any ghosting at all, so maybe I was just lucky. So I decided I would dedicate this particular pipe to the Celophaeus, Visions of Celophaeus. And if it ghosts, and probably it would ghost more than this because I would think that a cob would absorb whatever that ghosting material is from the flavoring. Excuse me. More than the briar. But anyway, that's what I decided to dedicate my Emerald Cobb. And I say that with derision. And see if that's true with this. Because I would think if it's going to be ghosting, it would be ghosting with a cob. I can't seem to keep this thing lit. I don't know whether I packed it poorly or... One thing I noticed this time smoking this, it has a tendency to hit the back of the throat right about here and leave a smoke trail. And what I mean by that, it kind of burns a bit. I got a message on one of my posts from the Tunnel Take, and he said he wouldn't be upset if I tried to caricature him. Well, I gave it a shot, but I don't really like it because I kind of made him look like he was mad, or maybe looking off in the distance, drifting in his mind as he smokes his pipe. Anyway, I'll show it to you just to see what you think. I'd rather have a smile on somebody's face, but I couldn't find one that I didn't look real quick though. I didn't take a lot of time. But he said he wouldn't be upset, so I'm going to see now if he's going to be upset. But I have been practicing. I still haven't gotten that one for the package I want to send, but I'm still working on it. I don't know what it is about this fella's face that I can't. Hang on while I put my glasses back on because I can't see diddly. I don't know what it is about his face that I can't capture. I got one I almost liked, but then I wasn't able to reproduce that because it wasn't really what I wanted. So I was copying that instead of looking at the man's face. Out again. But anyway, I'm working on it. I'm going back to what I used to do in the beginning when I first started drawing, going back to basics, because I've obviously lost the ability to capture somebody's presence. I used to be able to do it in one or two drawings, but either I'm old and my mind just isn't working, or I'm old and my hands don't work like they used to, or my eye-hand coordination is just way off. I don't know. I remember as a boy, Clyde got a leather jacket, and I had been drawing around him for a while. This was way back. And he wanted me to paint an eagle on the back of his leather jacket. And I told him that was way beyond my scope. I couldn't do that. And he kept telling me I could, and I kept telling him I couldn't. Never did do it. But I guess that was him saying, "You're all right with that drawing, Croucher or Neff." I painted a lot of pictures in the past, and I gave them all away. Don't have a clue as to if any of them are being hung on walls or they're just behind the refrigerator or what. I gave a couple to a friend of mine in Florence. He was my boss, my second boss. And we got to be pretty good friends. And I gave him a couple, and one of them he hung up in his bathroom. There's a Picasso that has the outline of a lady's hip and two lines forming the buttocks. And that's what I drew. It's just, and it wasn't bad. It wasn't a bad copy. It looked pretty good. And I'd signed it Heine. He had it framed and put in the bathroom. And there was a girl that I was dating that I was ready to marry. She didn't want to marry. This was back in the 80s. And every morning, when I had the evening shift, every morning I would get up and I would paint a picture. They were all fairly good, all acrylic, because it was such fast drying paint that by the time I was ready to go to work, I could take it with me. And I gave them all to her. Like I say, I don't know what she did with them. They were pretty good. One was of egret in the marsh. It's the only one I really remember, though, because I thought it was the better of all of them I had done. And the last girl that I got engaged to back in the early 2000s, I painted her portrait and gave it to her. Of course, I don't know what she did with it after we broke up. But she passed on a few years ago, so there's no telling what happened to that. Her daughters might have it, I don't know. It wasn't that great, but it was a start because it was the first one I was going to do because I was going to do several of them. And I painted a picture. There's a lighthouse out here called Morris Island Lighthouse, very famous Charleston, Folly Beach lighthouse. And her mother wanted a picture of the lighthouse. And I painted it fairly realistically with the lighthouse that was or is on Mount Pleasant over there somewhere in the background, kind of to show you the modern as opposed to the old, now defunct lighthouse. And her mother didn't like it. She didn't like it at all. She said, "Is that really what it looks like?" And a girl commissioned me one time to paint a picture of her boyfriend's dog. So I was trying to do the best I could, but I just wasn't, to me, I wasn't capturing it. And she called up and asked how I was coming along. I said, "You can come over and look at it, but I'm not crazy about it myself." She said, "Well, let me see how it looks and let you know whether you should go ahead and continue with it." She came over. I took her over to the easel and showed it to her. And she said, "You're right." Left, and I never heard from her again. Well, I finished it the best I could. It was a black Labrador. And my neighbor, his name was Rick too, and we call each other Neighbor Rick because we would go to the fence and talk back and forth. Good old fellow. And I said, "I got something for you." He had had a Labrador that had passed away just recently. It was a black Labrador, and I gave him that, and he liked it. It didn't go to waste. I didn't get any pay for it though. And then I had a painting, kind of a copy of a painting, and I always wrote on the back if I copied a painting. It was a painting of an Indian in a canoe. I can't remember who it was that painted. I don't know whether it was, but anyway. And somebody saw it and said, "Will you sell that to me?" And I said, well, I guess I could. I said, it's not an original, it's a copy of something. They said, it doesn't matter to me. She said, what do you want for it? I said, well, what do you think of $100? And they said, that's fine. So I gave it to him for $100. The very next day, I was heading down the road, and this road never has a cop at the end of it because it's the end of my road up here. Never is a cop down there. And I was heading up, and I was going like 5 miles over the speed limit. Stopped me, gave me a $100 ticket. I didn't gain anything. And it was one that I was really sorry that I had sold it to this girl, because I could have just sent it to my cousin because she wanted it when she came over from England. And I told her it was a copy and I didn't want to give it to anybody. But yeah, got my $100 for that painting, and right away had to take it up to the police station and pay that ticket off. Oh man. I've gotten 2 tickets in my lifetime. One when I first got my permit and I was driving to my mother home 5 miles over the speed limit, Woodland Shores Road. That's right up the street. And the second one was this one, Woodland Shores Road again, 5 miles over the speed limit. $100. Unbelievable. I had one that I made copies of. I went to some place and had like 20 copies made of it. It was just kind of a joke. It was a frog coming up out of the water with a lily pad kind of on his head, like he was peeking from under the lily pad, and the lily pad was a smiley face. And somebody asked if they could buy that when it was being framed. So I made the copies and sold it. Well, I'm frustrated with this. I just can't keep it lit. Maybe I'm just talking too much. I can see I've gone way over what I wanted to say. Cobb Tuesday. Thanks for joining me. Take care of yourselves. And I'm going to say, God bless you till the next time.